Okay, so today we're doing scatter plots, 9-8 scatter plots. And line of best fit. Okay, so a scatter plot is a graph that shows the relationship between BTW two sets of data. So now examples, there's types of relationships. A positive relationship, so we're going to draw two axes, the X and Y axis here, and make the first quadrant. A positive relationship is going to look like it goes uphill. Just like slope, uphill when you look at it from left to right. A negative relationship, so we're going to draw that first quadrant again. That's going to have where your dots for your scatter plot looks like it's going downhill. But that's again, as you read from left to right. When it's none, we draw first quadrant again. That's where the points are all over the place. There is no true relationship. You can't see a direction that it's going. So for example, the size of a home versus the size of its lot. That's not really any relationship, because you could have a huge lot and a small house, or like we in Texas have huge houses on a very small lot. So this one is none. The number of passengers on a plane versus the number of suitcases. Well, the more passengers there are, more passengers, more suitcases. So both of them are going to go in the same direction. So it's positive, and the less passengers, the less suitcases, because they would both be going up, 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 or both go down. They go in the same direction. Same direction. Number of days into fall versus the number of leaves on the tree. So the number of days into fall, that's going to go up, but the number of leaves on the tree, as we get closer to winter time, the number of leaves on the tree actually goes down. So this is opposite directions. Opposite direction. So therefore, this is negative. All right. Now we're going to practice drawing. Okay. So, well, when I'm looking at this, I have no numbers on my grid, but I do look at my hours. Okay. So I'm talking about hours, the number of hours a student studied for a test and their grade. Well, I got to figure out which one goes on the X and which one goes on the Y. This is the X axis. This is the Y axis. So remember our sentence, blank depends on blank. Blank depends on blank. Y always depends on X. So we fill in the sentence. The grade depends upon the hours that you study. So therefore, this is Y, this is X. So we're going to have our grade, the number of hours here, and the grade here. So the number of hours, that's small, that's going by one. So I'm going to actually go by ones here, but I'm going to actually only number the evens, so I don't have to write as many numbers. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now, my problem here is my numbers go all the way from the lowest of 45 to the highest of 100. So I'm going to actually make my graph go by tens. They don't have to be the same. And I'm only going to write it on every other one. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. And now we plot our points. So I have 380, 3 at 80, 5 at 90, 2 at 45, 6 at 85. That's going to be halfway between 80 and 90. So you're going to have something like that. 8 at 95. 1 at 55. Oh, this one's wrong. 2 at 45. Because that's 50. It belongs here. 2 at 60. 7 at 100. 4 at 75. Okay, so now I'm looking at this and I need to determine, draw the scatter plot and then identify the relationship. I need to tell whether it's positive or negative. Well, as I look at this and I read, the more hours that I study, the higher my grade is. It goes in that uphill direction. So therefore, this one is positive. Okay, flipping the page over because you're going to do the same thing. You have to create the graph based on this information. We're moving on to number 8 on the back of this page. Okay, we're now reading the scatter plots. Okay, so I'm getting I'm going to gather information from here. It says a company's stock price since it launched in 2006 is shown below. First thing I notice when I look at this data is it's going in this direction. That's a negative situation. Okay, so what is the approximate stock price in 2015? Well, years down here. So 2015, I'm going to go up and I'm going to look about what is that. So I'm going to go up to here and then I'm going to take and I'm going to go over to about, where is that? So that's 20, that's 25. So I would say that's 21, 22. So this is, we'll say that's 22. I do understand that these are approximate answers. Okay. It just, you couldn't write down 25 because I know it's not 25. In what years was the stock price $35 per share? So I'm going to look and I'm going to come over here. I'm going to use a different color now. So I've got 35. So that's here. That's this point. And this one's nice. This one's on the actual grid. So that's going to be 35. That would be about year or years. Oh, but you see there's 2 of them. So we would have 2010 and 2012. I almost missed the second one because you have to look at everything on that graph. Okay, and then what is the relationship? We talked about that earlier because it's going downhill. This is a negative relationship. Okay, now we flip to the next page. This is where we talk about the line of best fit. Okay, so this is the line of best fit. It is a line drawn on a scatter plot that is close to most of the data points. Period. Can be used to estimate data. You can use it to gather information. All right. So if I'm looking at this first example right here, I'm going to grab a straight edge. Okay, the graph below shows the relationship between the minutes spent studying in the test course for the math class. which line best represents the data. We need to graph each line to justify your answer. So I'm going to graph. Remember, the equations are in y equals mx plus b. Remember that m is your slope, which is rise over run. The b is your y-intercept, which is where it crosses the y-axis. Okay, so we're looking here. So I've got the first one is 50. So I'm going to plot a point at 50. And then I'm going to use my slope. Rise 2, run 3. So there's my next point. And I'm going to actually continue that all the way through. So I make sure that my graph is completely accurate. There's one. The next one, so that's A. So blue is A. I'm going to do purple, and that's 50. So I'm going through the same point, but it's up 3 over 2. Up 3 over 2. Up 3 over 2. When I'm looking at this line, it's nowhere near. I draw it correctly. That one doesn't look like it's anywhere near most of my points. Okay, so right now I'm thinking this one's an X. A's got a possibility. Let's see, because we want to know which one's best. I can't choose yet. So now we're doing C. So that's 55. So that's going to be here. And I'm going up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. Well, I've already hit 2 of the dots that are inside of this thing. Up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. So here we go. Ooh, it's difficult between the A and B. We'll have to come back and talk about that one. I'm sorry, A and C. All right, because C is giving this a run for its money here. Okay. All right, and D, let's see, that's 55. And then it's 3 over 2. So that's up 3 over 2. Up 3 to the right 2. Up 3 to the right 2. So now I play connect the dots. I see, well, both B and D are way off the mark. Now I've got to think about which one. Okay. Draw a line that is close to most of the data points. It should split the data. So this, I'm going to kind of think this applies to below, but it kind of helps us here. I want to have points. It wants to be kind of halfway in between. So if I look at C, it has about half the points above and half the points below. So that means C is going to be my best answer choice. Excuse me. So C is the answer for this problem. But your work is where you have to draw every line. Okay, here we go. Now we have to draw the line. We have to draw the line. So we want to split the points. Okay, so when I'm looking at this, you want to have maybe a couple of points on here. So when I split it, I'm going to use this point because I want my line to be kind of halfway in between. And I want to kind of make it. So I'm going to use another point on here to kind of look at this. Kind of keep it because I want about half above, half below. Okay, so I'm going to use this point, and now I'm going to write an equation for the line of best fit. So remember to write an equation that's got to be in y equals mx plus b form. I need to find out what my m is, and I need to find out what my b is. Well, right off, I know my b is going to be at, looking at this. I'm going 4, 6 in between each one. So therefore this add 3. So that's going to be at 7. So B is 7. And then I'm looking at my slope. Remember the slope is rise over run. So I'm going to go from here and I'm going to see, I want to find another point on the grid. Okay. That was a little difficult. What I may do is not use this rise over run. I'm going to find 2 points on the grid. That's going to be easier. So I'm going to do change in Y over the change in X. And I'm going to use the ordered pairs of 0, 7 and this point here, because it's kind of halfway in between the lines. That'll give me a good judge. So therefore that's going to be 7, 18. So now I'm going to do 18 minus 7 over 7 minus 0, which is going to give me 11 over 7. So my equation, and that's my slope, is going to be 11/7 m plus 7. Now, I do understand that these may be different, okay? But your equation has to match the graph that you draw, okay? So I'll be checking for that, all right? These answers may be different, okay? Answers may differ, okay? They may not be exactly the same thing, or may vary, might be the correct word instead of differ. Answers may vary. All right, so now it says to estimate the weight of a baby that is 12 months old. Okay, so this is months, so I'm looking at 12 months old. I'm wanting to try and estimate. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to see, where do I hit the line? My line right here. So now I'm going to go over to see, where does it hit the weight? It's at about 28 pounds. Okay, so I can see that on the graph, and I can also use my equation. Okay, I can look at the graph. So according to the graph, I have 28 pounds. Using the equation, I have y equals 11 over 7 times 12 plus 7. And that would give me approximately 26 pounds. Notice they're really close to the same, correct? I just could not put 15. 15 pounds would not make sense. So I understand that these answers may vary. It's just got to make sense according to what I'm looking at on the graph. All right, next example, going to number 4. The reason I'm doing this is because, again, your numbers are completely off. I may not even finish this one. We'll see. Okay. You've got to think about, I've got numbers from 1 to 10 on this for this information, but these, they're all on the 200s. So I'm going to have to think about that. Okay. Well, first I've got to determine which one goes on the x-axis and which one goes on the y-axis. So the table to the left shows Nick's weight each week into his diet. Make a scatter plot of this data. Well, his weight is going to depend on the number of weeks he's on the diet, because the longer he's on the diet, the more of an effect it's going to have. So this is Y and the weeks is X, and normally time is your X. So we have to label. So this is weeks and this is pounds. Now the weeks can go by ones, and I'm going to label every other line. Okay, now the weight, though, I don't need anything until at least 200. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what's called a zigzag. We're going to cause the graph to jump. So I don't have to worry about all of that numbers we don't need. So I'm going to draw a little zigzag in the first box. And I'm going to make right here start at 200. And then I'm going from 200 up to the highest is 238. So I'm going to go to 250. So I'm going to make it go by 5s here. So I'm going to jump everyone. I'm going to not label everyone because then my graph gets cluttered. So 205, 210, 215, 220, 225, 230, 235, 240, 245, 250. And now I'm going to plot my data points, okay, in here. So I'm going to have 1 at 238. So that's going to be just below 240. 2 at 235. 3 at 233. 4 at 231. 5 at 228. 6 at 227. 7 is at 225. 8 is at 222. 9 is at 220. 10 is at 217. Okay, so now remember, we want to draw a line that kind of goes through this data. So we want to have it kind of be in general with that, where it's kind of going through the middle of everything. Remember, you might notice I've got a little bit above, a little bit below. It's kind of going through the middle of the points. Okay, so it says write an equation for the line of best fit. I know I'm going to use the y-intercept. Okay, then I'm going to try and find a point that's another point that's on my grid. Okay, or actually got points here that I can use so that I can get an accurate graph. Okay, so I'm going to use 2 points. So use 2 points from graph. Oh, I'm sorry, from the table. From table to find slope. So I'm just going to pick 2 points covered. So I'm going to do 3 comma 233 and 7 comma 225, because I'm just trying to get around about a different, like a space between them. Okay, not both from the top, not both from the bottom. So now I'm going to have 233 minus 225 over 3 minus 7, which is going to give me 8 over -4, which gives me -2. That's my M. Well, my B, according to the graph, okay, for the B, I'm going to look at graph, and my B is at 240, because that's where it crosses. So my equation is going to be y equals -2x plus 240. There's my equation. Now, estimate mixed weight after 24 weeks. I can't do that on the graph. That's why I have to know how to use the formula, my equation. So I'm going to have y equals -2 times 24 plus 240. So that's going to give me -48 plus 240, which gives me that y equals 192 pounds. Your assignment is to finish the notes and the classwork homework. Have a great day.